Baldurs Gate 3 is a huge role-playing game. It is built on the Dungeons & Dragons system, with some modification to better translate into a video game format. And the average playthrough doing the main story and side content can run you around 100 hours. My own playthrough finished at 101, and I know I missed a few side things. So, is this massive game worth playing? Well, different from most AAA games, Baldurs Gate 3 was originally released in early access on Steam on October 6, 2020, and over the next 3 years, it was worked on, with the Act 1 being accessible for players to play, while Act 2 and 3 were worked on in the background. And during this time, the developers were in constant contact with players, hearing their ideas, what they liked and what they didn't like. And finally, on August 3rd, 2023, the game was fully released. And while Act 3 is clearly the largest of the 3 acts, the other 2 are still quite big. The story premise is basic, but sets up a good goal for your character to explain why they are invested in everything that's going on. You wake up on a mind flayer ship, where a mind flayer parasite is implanted in your brain. As you escape, you know that you are on borrowed time, till you yourself will be turned into one of those mind flayers. And so your search for a cure begins. On your travels, you come across several companions, including the origin characters, which you can also choose to play, if you like. And all of them suffer the same issue as you. They have an unwanted companion in their brain. And together with them, or alone, or with your friends, you can go and work on finding a remedy for your situation. But you will also come in contact with cults, world-ending threats, and quite a few shady people who are willing to help you, but for a price. And as someone who has played tabletop RPGs with friends for a few years, this game gave me the feeling of playing through a massive campaign with a very excited dungeon master. As wherever you go, there is something there, making exploration really worth it. You can speak to characters who often have something interesting to say, and your actions have consequences, sometimes even deadly ones, or something unexpected. And there can be often interesting solutions to problems if you utilize some out-of-the-box thinking, which the game is surprisingly often prepared for. Because when you want to go into a place, you could always walk through the front door, but in a game that offers sneaking, flying, jumping, and just stacking up boxes to make absolute shenanigans, there seems to be always ways to get around things, which is really fun. And you can play the game any way you want. Want to be a good person and save the world and make everyone happy? You can work on doing that. Want to be diabolically evil? Well, that is also an option. In fact, depending on who you side with in certain parts of the game, you will get access to different companions to join your party, and even quite different events, meaning a second playthrough offers quite a few different experiences, depending on your choices. The character creator itself is very extensive, offering 11 different races, from the basic human to dragonborn, and each one has some sub-races as well. You can also pick to be one of the origin characters, which are characters with specific backstory and unique events that will happen throughout the story. Or you can play the Dark Urge, which is the only origin character you can never meet in-game and is only there for you to play as. This is incidentally what I ended up choosing, and I had so much fun, as this origin character allows you to modify their look, but it also brings in a lot of the extra story and connection with playing an origin character. And the mystery around the Dark Urge had me quite engaged throughout the story. And while the Dark Urge might come off as something perfect for an evil playthrough, that's not what I went for. I was far more morally grey, and I enjoyed that I wasn't forced into a role throughout the story. Instead, I could actually make my character how I wanted it to be. No matter who you play, you can choose from 12 different classes, which you can then build in your own way, even multiclassing. And in the game, there are also options to fully reset and change your class. And make note that some of the classes offer visual changes, like the Sorcerer's Draconic Bloodline gives you the option to have scales on your face. is these little attention to detail that I really like. The game will automatically pick up a good set of stats for you depending on your class, allowing you to easily get into the game. But you can also manually go in and adjust things like your stats, your cantrips, your spells, and as you level later on in the game, you have the option on leveling yourself and your companions. You can even change your companion class as you desire. Do you want that sassy Asterian changed to a bard and just have him hurl insults at people as his combat? You can do that, and it's glorious. Do you feel that demonic-looking barbarian should be a cleric? Whatever you want, you can do it. And if you don't like any of the companions, you can of course either play alone, play with your friends, or hire merchants with a bit less personality to join your party to fill in whatever you need. Though I found the companions to be absolutely fascinating. Now the combat is turn-based. If you've played a tabletop RPG or games like Divinity Original Sin, you kinda know how it works. At the top of the screen you can see the order each character takes their turn, and you will generally have one big action like sprinting, smacking someone with your weapon, throwing a spell, or something similar, a certain amount of movement, and then a smaller action which is things like drinking your healing potion. But as you level you would get more actions, and there are few things as fun as seeing your barbarian just take down several enemies in a single turn. Or my favourite, having your cleric cast Spirit Guardian and then have them walk through a group of low health mobs and just watch the carnage. I find this combat system to be very fun, but it is, of course, very much a personal preference, as I can also understand that turn-based combat might not be for everybody. But the freedom in fights is very rewarding. If your enemy can push you off a cliff, well, you can do that as well. Hell, you can even pick up an enemy and throw it at another enemy, if you actually have the strength for it. And with this good system comes an even better story. The writing is excellent, and with you being able to follow your own personal agenda and pick your sides through the story, there are many moments and some interesting characters you won't really meet on your first playthrough. Depending on your choices, you will have the ability to get different extra companions, which aren't the origin characters, but these depend on what choice you made, and some can never be obtained in the same playthrough, as they simply are on opposite sides. Each one of your companion has their own story and their own agenda, the origin characters having the biggest stories of course, and I found each one of them to be quite nice. The personalities of the characters are varied, and I was truly surprised that in the end I actually really cared about all of them. And some of them grew in very interesting ways throughout the story. You can also enter relationships with each character. A bit too easily at times when I played it, though they have been adjusting the romance a bit since then, so it's not as aggressive. But overall I found myself in camp with people who were all very keen on dating me, which was definitely an interesting experience. And sometimes a bit painful when I had to let them down after accidentally triggering the romance flag. The romance I picked in the end felt very satisfying, having both tender moments and more explicit ones. And with the great writing comes beautiful voice acting and music. Main characters from the story have a great range of voices and emotion, and the game has what is to this date my favorite boss music. Because let's just say, when the boss starts singing the lyrics, you know you messed up. The main issues I found with the game was the ending could have been more fleshed out. I wanted to know more about what happened to all of my companions, but when I played it, I only got very limited view of them, and some I have no idea what they want to do after the game. I also came across several bugs in Act 3, including one where my game just kept on crashing, and one instance where I had a character try to convince another character why the character I was playing as to talk to them had been murdered, and why that had been the right thing to do, and it was just very confusing, because something clearly did not flag correctly in that quest. But it did not break the game, so it was okay. Because even with these issues, I felt the game was so worth playing. I will genuinely be very surprised if Baldurs Gate 3 does not get Game of the Year. It is a game that is made with such obvious love from the developers, and I think it's frankly amazing. And while I don't think we should expect every single game to be Baldurs Gate, I think we should expect every game to have the love put into it that Baldurs Gate has. Because when you have a team of developers who truly adore the game they're making, it really shows. So when asking if it's worth playing, for me it's a yes. And I would genuinely recommend this to anybody who has even a fleeting interest in RPGs. But I am also someone who enjoys turn-based combat, and I enjoy this type of storytelling, and I'm aware others might not be as excited about it, and that's perfectly fine. Still, I'm curious to hear if this is a game you're interested in playing. Have you played it already? And what were your thoughts on it? Let's talk about it in the comments, and while you're down there, please make an offering of likes and subscriptions to our algorithmic overlord, and maybe queue up another video. But whatever you do, I hope you have a lovely day.